There we go. We are broadcasting. Folks coming in the room. Here we go. Hi, Fuelers. I see you coming in. Good afternoon. Okay, so we're going to get started right away and jump right into the content. We have a very important topic, lots of content and information to cover, and an illustrious panel of very learned, knowledgeable, charismatic, engaging people to put us up on the latest information, financial and career resources for people who have been affected or their ability to earn has been affected by being in quarantine, this pandemic. So for some of you, that means it's affecting you directly. For others, it's just folks that you know. So please take notes, feel free to ask questions in the chat and the Q&A. We really want to try to get to as much information as possible. My name is Corey Jo Biddle. I'm the Executive Director of Fuel Milwaukee. And I think this is probably I'm losing count now, but our fourth webinar that we've done, which is significant because 100% of our events and programs are person-person, in-person. So we've had to do a lot of shifting and pivoting, and I'm really appreciating the fact that you all are responding to the content that we're putting out and sharing it with your network. So thanks to all of you who are listening in. So I want to get started sort of introducing our panel here. If I can get my technical difficulties. There we go. The panelists. I'm going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do. But before, I just want to let you know who's in the space here. So we contacted Mark Goldstein, who's an attorney at law and president of Goldstein Law Group. We really kind of wanted somebody that understood a lot of the acts that have recently been passed to benefit folks that have been affected by COVID-19. And word on the street is that he knows his stuff. So Mark, thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure.
Okay, next up we have Mac Javara, who I thought was in Milwaukee, but is where? Where are you at, Mac? Where are you in the world right now? Go ahead.
So sorry, it cut out there. I missed the last part.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Where are you? We thought you were in Milwaukee until like 15 seconds ago.
I'm somewhere colder. So I'm actually back in Toronto, Canada for a nice, beautiful April snowstorm today.
We had one yesterday. Don't feel bad. Next up, we have Denise Thomas. I'm sorry, Mac is actually the client and portfolio director at Manpower Group. He'll tell you a little bit about himself too and the work that he does. We also have on the line Denise Thomas. Hi, Denise.
Hey, Corey Jo, how are you?
Doing good. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Denise is the president and owner of the Effective Communication Coach. And I kind of wanted her to round out the discussion because all kinds of workers and all kinds of earners have been affected by this, including small business owners, self-employed, and consultants. So she'll give a little bit about that perspective. I'm going to stop the share and kind of go back to the gallery so we can see all your faces. And quickly, I want the three panelists, before I have you introduce yourself, I want to tell you, Dessa Johnson. Hi, Dessa, give us a wave. Dessa is also from Manpower, and she's here to help me sort of navigate the Q&A section and the chat. So during this conversation, if you have anything that you want us to sort of bring up, Dessa is going to be monitoring those sections, so feel free to place your questions in there. All right, Mark, kick us off. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what you know about the resources.
Oh, sure. So I'm the principal at Goldstein Law Group. We're in the 5th Ward, Walker's Point, just south of the 3rd Ward. And I've been practicing for about 25 years. We serve as outside corporate counsel to business. What that means is we serve in two roles. One is business that doesn't have their own general counsel or is looking to outside counsel for any number of reasons. We serve in that capacity. And then specifically with respect to issues in the workplace, labor and employment law, wages, discrimination, investigations, handbooks, non-competes. I should just put a little point in here that nothing we talk about today should substitute for legal advice. If you have specific questions, you're welcome to email me, or you should reach out to counsel.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, what I think I'll do is jump right into the questions with you, Mark, and then as we come to the other panelists, I'll have them kind of do the same thing that you just did, give us a little bit of a summary. How's that sound? Okay. All right. So what we know about the CARES Act, or what we've heard is, and I kind of put this in the marketing, is that it includes a bunch of stuff that is for businesses and economics in general, but for the individuals on the call, for the worker, the individual person. What stands out is the unemployment on steroids, which I think some people kind of understand that, other people don't, and the stimulus checks that some people are seeing in their accounts right now. Can you talk to us a little bit about where all this is coming from? So you sent me something earlier today about the unemployment rate and how this affected all of these stimulus packages and support for workers and earners.
Sure. So I'll share just a few data points with you, not to scare anybody. We all have been living this, so I don't think any of this is news. But I think it helps to kind of set the context for what we're dealing with, and then one really big piece that I think conceptually will be important. This is a historic moment we're in. None of us really wished for this or bargained for it, but it is upon us. To borrow from Paul Krugman, the Nobel-winning economist, who said about the 2008 financial crisis, he said, it's like you're a meteorologist and there's a hurricane coming at your house and you're terrified, but also kind of fascinated at the same time. And I think that's the moment we're in. This is terrifying in many respects, and yet here it is. So just to give you a sense, the unemployment numbers, the federal unemployment numbers came out again this morning. We've had 4 weeks of numbers that are off the charts, 3.3 million, 6.6 million, 6.6 million, and then this week 5.5 million or 5.2 million. So just to give you an idea, those are initial claims. And Corey, thank you. This headline from this morning's paper shows you, compared to the previous high, which was in 08-09, of 600 and some thousand, we are at 10 times what the previous high was. At the state level, we've had 2 weeks now, or 4 weeks, of claims in the numbers of about 100,000. Prior highs were on the order of 35,000. So this gives you a sense of the historic moment we're in. Now, I don't share all that just to scare people or tell them something they already know. I share that because relevant to what Corey and I are going to be talking about is the fact that unemployment is not like, you think about in a black and white movie, like going and waiting in line at 12th and Fleet, in a long line with people to file a claim. This is a tool that you have. It's a tool that the federal government has. It's a tool that the state government has to try and shore things up while we're going through this moment we're in. So we'll talk about the CARES Act, but fundamentally unemployment benefits are one aspect of that, and there's no shame, there's no stigma in seeking unemployment. So that's I think the important context to start this off with.
What can you tell us about the CARES Act or any other programs that we
Sure.
haven't mentioned or know about? What's included in it?
Sure. So the CARES Act was put into law about a week and a half ago. It is kind of unprecedented in how quickly that happened and how big it is. It totals about $2.2 trillion. And there are a number of different components. The ones that are relevant to us are as follows. There's $350 million that was authorized for small business. That was, as of today, used up. So to give you an idea, in about 10 days, $350 million went out the door to shore up small business. Then there's unemployment on steroids. Corey referred to that, and we'll be talking about that a lot. There are also some tax incentives for business. There's a partial tax credit. There are other incentives that basically say to business, if you hold on to your employees, we will help with that cost. And then I think this is really important, not to skip over. There's also an aspect that affects student loans. So student loan payments that are federally funded, there's no interest, payments are delayed or excused until September 30th. So if you haven't gotten notice on that, you will. The deadline to get notice out on that was April 11th. So those are kind of the critical elements. The last point, I suppose, is that the CARES Act amended and clarified some things with respect to the FFCRA, paid sick leave, and FML, paid family medical leave, emergency family medical leave.
I'm gonna share my screen. You gave me a couple of links to show here. I'm gonna show, what are we looking at in this first?
Sure. So the CARES Act has a couple different pieces in it that supplement state unemployment. This is the unemployment on steroids piece. And there are really basically three. If you qualify for state unemployment, you qualify for up to $370 a week in state unemployment. The CARES Act supplements that through July 31st with a $600 per week payment. So that makes your weekly entitlement $970, $370 plus $600. And that technically is called the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, FPUC. If you have been laid off or furloughed or are not working for any reason other than your choice, you probably qualify for this. This took effect as of April 4th. And as you can see from this page, we paid out starting April 26th. People are a little anxious because they haven't seen these payments yet. They're coming, they just haven't been worked out bureaucratically yet. So April 26th is when these start to flow.
I'm gonna go to the second one. Is this the same? What's the difference between these two?
So this is the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. One of the reasons people hate lawyers, all these acronyms, but PUA is very unusual. This extends unemployment to people who ordinarily would not necessarily qualify for unemployment. So that includes, for example, independent contractors, people who are self-employed, people with limited work history, you're an Uber driver. If you were doing some contract work that may or may not have been on the books or whatever it might be, this is, I'm going to overstate it a little, a no questions asked kind of unemployment that goes to people like yourself. And this also extends unemployment up to 39 weeks. So not just 26 weeks in the state, 39 weeks of unemployment benefits.
Is this unprecedented? Like, has anything like this been offered to workers before?
This is highly unusual, and I would say no. I can't speak back to the 1930s or 1970s, but I think some of this relates to the fact that we're living in a gig economy, and there are so many folks who have gigs. And this was always the question for us as Employers Council, is what happens when folks like this file for unemployment? The federal government has basically said, we're not going to get into that now. We're going to support people where they are. We're going to financially shelter them in place.
Okay, I have the third link here.
Sure, and the third link is the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, PEUC. And what this does is extends state unemployment, which is traditionally 26 weeks, for an additional 13 weeks. Again, a total of 39 weeks of unemployment. And this is supported by the federal government.
Okay, so you kind of mentioned that this package covers folks that historically wouldn't have been covered under an act like this.
Yes.
It kind of, people are finding themselves unable to earn for different reasons, and employers are employing different methods of sort of laying folks off, furloughing. It's kind of confusing. Can you explain the difference between a furlough, a layoff, cut hours, and whether those people are still eligible depending on
Sure.
how they were, their work was reduced?
Sure, so let me do my best to kind of wrap it all together. There are basically 6 changes to regular unemployment that have happened. 3 programs, the $600 supersized, the extension to contractors, and the 39 weeks versus 26. Then there are also 3 changes to state law that have happened. The work search, the idea of a work search has been waived. The idea of being able and available for work has been waived. And the 1-week waiting period has been waived. So there are 6 things that have happened. There are more, but those are principally the 6. Now, some folks rightly say, hey, I tried applying and I was denied, right? There are two reasons that you might be denied legitimately. One is that you quit, or the other is that you were fired for misconduct or substantial fault. But if you were denied for other reasons, it very well may be that the system was just overwhelmed. In other words, for example, there are a whole bunch of criteria for which you could qualify under the PUA, which extends unemployment to gig workers, that were not qualifying under state law. And it's just taking the state some time to noodle through that and to sort that out. So fundamentally, the state's saying two things. Number one, apply. We'll figure out whether you qualify or whether you disqualify, but you should apply. And number two, some of this federal stuff hasn't taken effect yet and will take effect in a couple of weeks. So for example, the $600 takes effect April 26th, but is retroactive to April 4th. And there are folks who are frustrated by the manner of applying, the inability to get through on the phone, the fact that they've been turned down. It's all real and that's all true. That's about a state system that's just overloaded by the number of claims, which is the reason I shared that first slide.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to share my screen again to show some of the other links that you sent me. I want people that haven't been through this process before and are finding themselves in this position to see the websites and know the links to go to. I'm sure your employers are helping you with this if you've been through this, but I kind of, for folks who might be anticipating or helping somebody else, I'm going to share it so we can see some of those websites again. I see a lot of questions in the chat and in the Q&A. If you see anything that you think is timely, feel free, we don't have to wait till the end, just jump in if you see anything that you think.
Sure.
Okay. As I'm saying that, I'm going to share.
Yeah, so the one question is about, does PUA cover individuals who manage Airbnbs? Unemployment covers owners, but owners of corporations, not partners and not sole proprietors, although the PUA now extends to some of those folks. So it very well may. And yes, this is a specific unemployment page, specific to the COVID-19 situation that will answer a lot of the questions you might have about your particular circumstance.
Okay. I got one
So
more.
Mark, to Corey's point, we have quite a few questions that are coming through. So there's a couple that I'd like to address right now. I think they're timely. One question we had is, so is the $970 a week only through July 31st?
The 600 of the 970 is right now only through July 31st, but importantly, if you get $1 of state unemployment, you qualify for the 600. So if you had some earnings, but not enough, and you get a $55 state unemployment check, you qualify for the 600 federal dollars.
So Mark, on the screen here, I have up, you talked about eligibility.
Oh, sure. So this is the page of the state unemployment handbook for claimants that speaks to eligibility issues. And it fundamentally, I mean, if you really boil it down, unemployment is meant for people who lost a job through no fault of their own. And so eligibility issues usually revolve around terminated for misconduct or substantial fault, someone who quit, and then the other one is someone who is an owner. Now, there's one other issue that pops up, and I guess it's worth mentioning here, and that is the PUA. There are a whole bunch of other ways in which you qualify. And one of them relates to you left your job because of COVID. And that's an open question as to whether that's someone who really truly couldn't work because the job site was shut down or their job was eliminated, or someone who just doesn't feel comfortable working because they're nervous about getting sick. That's an open question still. I've heard it answered both ways.
Okay. Tell us what we're looking. What's this? Though this is the computation.
Yeah, so this is again from the handbook for claimants. This computes what you might be eligible for based on your prior earnings. As I said, though, the PUA modifies a little bit as it expands unemployment out to gig workers and so on. So this helps you compute your weekly benefit rate and how much you might make. It also helps you understand. I think we have a separate slide on this topic. Help you understand if you're working a little bit, how much in the way of benefit you qualify for.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Dusty, do you have anything else for him right now?
No, I think those resources and links will provide a lot of clarity and be valuable for some of the questions that I see coming through. I mean, one in particular is specific to, you know, can someone on reduced hours or reduced pay be eligible for unemployment? So I think that last resource will help clarify some of that.
And the short answer is yes and yes. They might actually qualify for unemployment and the federal, meaning short term, they might take home more money than we would have otherwise. Fundamentally, for part-time, it's about, did you work 32 hours? Did you earn more than $500? If it's under 32, under 500, you qualify.
Okay, so I have a question here about the stimulus payments, and just tell us a little, give us the background on that and what people can expect in terms of receiving it, or if they need to do anything to receive it.
Sure, so these have not been received yet, been mailed yet, but they will be in the next few weeks. At the core, it's $1,200 a person and $500 a child. Now that's fluid depending upon your earnings, but that's a one-time payment to people, again, folks who are quote unquote sheltering in place, to just try and keep people even, allow you to buy groceries, pay rent, and do other things. That's a one-time payment that's independent of employment. And in theory, that goes to every American, but fundamentally it relates to who you live with. It relates to whether you have any liens on your bank account. Some of that money could be seized if you have garnishments or other things, and how much you earn. If you earn more than $75,000, there's kind of a step down in how much money you'll receive.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much, Mark. We're going to transition to Mac. Before I get to your questions, please tell us a little bit about Manpower and what you do there. We're shifting into what's going on with folks' careers, and I really kind of wanted this to be a comprehensive view at what is happening to our economy and workers nationally, and then sort of drill it down to the individual person and what people can do to make shifts themselves. Go ahead, Mac.
Absolutely. Thank you, Corey, Joe. So I am a part of Manpower Group. So we are the third largest workforce solutions organization globally. We support over 400,000 customers across the globe and close to 80 countries. And really, we are focused in the world of work, and we help folks find meaningful and sustainable employment. I work specifically within the Manpower brand within the U.S. with a number of clients across the country. And as mentioned, we really are focused around putting people to work and working with job seekers to align them with the best opportunities possible. So certainly a time in which we are heavily engaged with what's happening in the labor market. I think as you look at the labor market currently, this is the largest reallocation of labor and talent that we've seen since World War II. We've really shifted from a services-driven economy to a delivery economy. We have seen industries mobilize and change overnight based off of the unprecedented times that we've seen. We certainly see that impact on a large scale, but also has tremendous impact at the individual level as well.
So look, I'm going to go to one of the slides that you sent me, because I really kind of wanted to cover which industries and careers have been most affected by COVID-19. Yeah. As I'm finding that, you can go ahead and start answering, but I'm going to pull that up though.
Yeah, absolutely. So as mentioned, unprecedented times, and we've certainly seen a shift in the labor market. We moved from not too many months ago being within a labor market that was operating at all-time highs, month over month, was on a tremendous run, and really was operating with a deficit in the talent market. There were more jobs and talent available to do so, and we've seen that really shift to a talent mismatch in the marketplace. As you can see from this slide, We've certainly seen industries that have gone backwards. So as you look, you can see, 43% have reduced, but we've also seen other industries have large surges and large increases in terms of the impact on the labor market. So as mentioned, the big shift here that we have seen is the shift from services to delivery focus. And as we look at this, overall, we certainly have seen some reduction. We have seen some industries and some types of roles that have really grown and surged. And if you look at the U.S. today, there are over 5 million open positions. So I think as we look at the focus of our work is really around how can we match as many of these displaced workers against those 5 million open positions. And as we look at that data, I think the interesting point to highlight is within those open positions, it's not just what we're hearing about in terms of surges in grocery, logistics, healthcare. I know we're all quite aware of that, but we are seeing increased need for customer service agents, insurance and mortgage agents, as well as IT security resources and other technology resources as well. So as mentioned, we really have shifted in a couple of ways very quickly in the labor market, but still many jobs to fill, and we got to do our best to align talent against those.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you a little bit about, when we were talking about this before, we spent some time talking about what folks could do if they had been furloughed and maybe expect to go back to work or just had an opportunity to level up their skills or education. And what did you say on that call about skills? Skills is the new
currency.
Yeah, I really like. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think as we look at Manpower Group, a fundamental outlook that we have is around career ownership. We really are the CEOs of our own careers. And as we look at a time like this, the opportunity to earn and be employed is certainly one element, but we are in an unprecedented time of the availability for us to be able to learn as well. And I think as you look at the opportunity in front of us for those who may have been impacted, whether that be displaced or furloughed, as you have the job search and actively seek your next challenge, it's equally as important to focus on learning and leveraging the tools that are out there and the programs that are out there to help you skill up for your next opportunity or that opportunity that you're striving for when you return back from your furlough.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the resources that Manpower has available for folks?
Absolutely. So, within Manpower, times like this is certainly our calling as an organization. So as we started to see indicators around what was happening in the labor market, it was really important that we took action very, very quickly to be able to support and help as many folks as we can to really keep America working. And some of the large programs that we have rolled out as an organization are really two-pronged. We do have our Text to Apply program, which has been a program that we have put out to be as efficient as possible for those displaced during the current circumstances to be able to connect with Manpower recruiters so we can help them shift from being displaced into one of the many new opportunities that we do have within the organization. The other piece that we have really focused on that aligns around the learning element that we talked about was through a partnership at the University of Phoenix that we have launched, really focused around high impact areas and skill sets with a program that is built to provide professional certifications in a number of different areas that we know are currently in very high demand in the marketplace. So as we look at our certifications programs, those are really built around things like accounts receivable, accounts payable, help desk, contact center, customer service agent roles, as well as certifications for contact center leads, as well as warehouse leads. So we identify the importance within, within our function to support folks that need to get back to earning, but also to help them learn in the meantime.
So Mark, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question based on the information that Mac shared. I know that some of the resources that he just talked about, people are already taking advantage of and will take advantage of, in addition to folks who are writers and can pick up gigs, like you said, sort of on the internet and with some of the resources online. If someone is receiving benefits, how do they know how much unemployment benefits, how do they know how much work they can do or how much they can earn without compromising their benefits?
Yeah, so there are three very short answers to the question. The first is that there's a math equation and there's a page on the unemployment website where you can actually punch in some numbers and see how that affects your benefit level. The second is that the state benefit is really a whole lot less than the federal benefit. So your goal as a claimant is just to maintain literally $5 in state benefits so you get the federal 600. I don't mean to be flip about it, but with the numbers the way they are, the federal is just much more valuable than the state, and you get the federal as long as you get $1 in state benefits. But the third answer is that unemployment is set up from a policy standpoint to encourage work, to encourage work searches, to encourage trying new things. And so you will not be penalized in that sense for seeking out work and for trying to get new employment.
Thank you. Mac, one last question for you before we go to Denise. And so people on the call can understand the flow of what we're going to do. After our conversation, or the questions that I have, the formal questions I have for Denise, we're going to open up the Q&A because there are a lot of detailed questions in there, and we're doing pretty good on time, so we'll have time to get to most of them, I think. So Mac, in the scope of how this pandemic has affected us as a nation in our economics, the way that we work, the way that people interact, working remotely. I think people are doing things that they didn't consider before or didn't think possible before. I know I am, in terms of what is possible remotely. How do you think that this is going to affect the way that employers hire, the way that people work, the way that teams are able to partner? Do you think this will have lasting effects once we're able to sort of go back into each other's space?
Yeah, so absolutely. Certainly we have seen organizations really shift quickly in terms of having to work remotely, virtually, and having to adjust very quickly. So what we really feel as an organization is we've just seen an acceleration of what was going to happen with the future of work anyways. So as we look at this, if you look at the current open positions in the marketplace, we've actually seen a shift, and there's actually 25% of open roles are remote work. So we are starting to see a shift, and we really do believe that this is going to create a future that provides a more flexible, a more virtual, a more trusting, and a much better blend of home and work for the labor market, which we really do feel that this will be better for organizations as well as for people within these organizations. So as we look at the current scenario and situation, we certainly think that it's accelerating something that's on its way, and it will be really interesting to see how organizations respond after.
Absolutely. We were talking on the phone about how I actually feel a little bit closer to my coworkers now because I've seen their pets and I know what their homes look like. And I have 2 little kids at home, so I'm at my boyfriend's house right now, which is supposed to be like quiet because it's just him. He has no idea that y'all can see him walking around. I'm getting text messages. So, but that would have horrified me before. And now it's just like, I think we're all kind of understanding that, folks are at home and working life is a little bit more blended than it ever has been. So I'm actually looking forward to see how this all rolls out once we're able to get back in each other's space. Thank you, Mac.
Absolutely,
okay.
Thank you.
Denise, speaking of quick pivots and changes, you're in Dubai and you're in Egypt and you're all over the world, and then they tell you, you know what, you got to stay, you got to shelter in place and do all these speaking gigs. So can you talk to us a little bit first about what it is that you do,
Sure.
and how this has impacted your ability to do the work that you do?
Sure. Well, thank you first, Corey Joe, for having me on. Great to see everyone. And I just want to quickly just let everybody know that right now we feel like we're losing control. And I know with Governor Evers' extension of the Safer at Home now to May 26th, we probably feel like we're losing control again. So I just want, my first message is for everybody to consider, and I'm talking to myself as well, how do we redefine our control? So don't feel like you're losing it, but definitely redefine it. So what I do right now is I lose my mind every day. No, I'm just kidding. What I do is my company, the Effective Communication Coach, is a company that transforms emerging and existing professionals into extraordinary leaders by mastering the art of effective communication. And now more than ever, our narrative and the way that we connect with people, whether we're business owners or whether we work for a nonprofit or for-profit organization, is more important than ever.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so in the kind of work that you do, and I'm sure everybody is sort of hearing the word pivot in the different contexts more and more. I'm hearing it so much, but particularly for folks who run consulting businesses and agencies and are able to actually pivot and provide some services, modified, of course, to do online workshops and build online communities. When did you decide that when did you realize, okay, I have to pivot? And what was that thought process? How long did it take you to transition?
For me, once I started reading the news or hearing messages that COVID was going to impact people's ability to travel and there was going to be quarantining. So I immediately, and let me just be completely transparent, because I don't want to come off as this, oh, I was just, working through everything and it was just so wonderful. I panicked, and I literally had to just sit down, which I don't do very well, sit down and just think about how I could reinvent myself. Now, here's the powerful thing about turning lemons into lemonade. I had always in the back of my mind said, I need to have webinars. I need to create additional revenue streams of income. And it was just always in the back burner because I'm on a plane and I'm at conferences and I'm traveling all over the world speaking. So that was the first time where I really thought, okay, this is where I have to redefine how I provide my service. And really for me, and I know there was an entrepreneur, and I hope she's still on, she said that she's an event planner. And obviously with people changing the way that they facilitate events, one of the things that I wanted to share with her, if she's still on, is people are still having events and they're virtual. And there's a lot of people who don't know how to have a successful virtual event because we've never had to do this before. So if you are someone who is an event planner, just like for someone like me who is a communications coach or public speaker, this is where you take a step back and say, how can I help people? How can I be a solution to all of these problems that exist out there? So again, that goes back to, how can I be a solution? How can I redefine my brand? One of the things I love about Burger King, I don't even really eat Burger King, but I felt compelled to order a Whopper when they were like, let us come to you. Let us help you while you're trying to figure out how to be healthy. Let us be your food provider. I was like, I'm going to order a Whopper. And I've never felt inclined to do that. So again, redefine what you do and be a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put up, I know you actually, I'm so glad you were able to do this because you have an event after this, like right after this. I'm going to share my screen so people can see it. But my question for you is about what you actually have done and the kinds of steps you're taking to pivot for yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much also for sharing my information. So what I'm doing right now is transforming my ability to connect with people in person on a virtual platform. So I am hosting a number of digital or virtual webinars in terms of how can people still be successful and win at work in a virtual workplace. And I do that through, again, talking about intergenerational communication, because now more than ever, as you mentioned, Corey Joe, we're really getting to know people and how and why they show up the way that they do. So this is going to be even more of a time to connect and understand how people thrive in a virtual workplace, or how they can. It's not a one size fits all. Yes, we're in this together, but there's different ways that people communicate and different ways that people thrive. Some people email, some people need a phone call, some people may need to be on a virtual room and look at people. So with that, and then presenting powerful presentations along with how to just stay connected, how to foster relationships, digital based or virtual platform. Those are some of the topics. And so I hope that people can take advantage and enroll in these webinars over the next 4 to 5 weeks.
What kind of resources did you use to help you make these transitions? So if you weren't doing them before, were you enrolling in webinars? Were you kind of going on websites? I'm trying to give people, there's so many ideas out there, and I have a sense that people feel really overwhelmed,
Yes.
but that the things that everyone is doing can spark inspiration and creativity for folks. So just tell us a little bit about what resources or technologies you've been using. I mean, I know Zoom now. Well, I'm getting to know it. And I had never really used it before.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great question. So what I would encourage everyone to do, just in terms of what's been working for me, is we are literally drinking information from a water hose right now. And every day our inboxes are saturated with register for this webinar, attend this webinar. Make sure that you have a clear understanding of what you are trying to do in terms of growing your business. And from there, if it doesn't fit or if it doesn't match in terms of moving your needle, then don't attend. You don't have to attend every webinar that's based on COVID-19. What you need to be doing is making sure that your why aligns with what the webinars are providing in terms of solutions, and not only sustaining your business, but you want to continue to grow your business. Like for example, today, one of my clients said that she attended a party through an app called House Party, where there is a person who has now created an app where it's not just virtual happy hours, but where they have different rooms and you can mingle. And I thought that was genius. So that means that somebody out there during the first 2 weeks of self-quarantine said, how can I provide an experience where people will feel like they're at a house party, but digital? So be very mindful of how you're using your time and what webinars. I know MMAC is continuing to provide some very informative and valuable webinars. So definitely continue to do that. But first, know your why, know how you want to grow your business, and then seek the webinars that are providing you solutions and information to help you move that needle.
Thank you so much, Denise. Thank you. We wish you the best for your session that you have right after this. I'm going to try to hop on there if I can. We actually have about 15 minutes for questions. So Dessa, as you kind of scan through the questions, are you seeing, I mean, there's lots of questions. Mark, I think get ready because a lot of them are coming your way. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I would say that
I saw a good one that I wanted to be this, and it relates to what Mac talked about too. There is some talk that these numbers we've seen in terms of unemployment, they're huge, but they'll come down really fast when things recover after May 26th or whenever that is. I think that's an open question. So the question was about, how does that number capture folks who are no longer looking or are out of the workforce, whatever it might be. I think you're right. There will be a long-term effect of this. It'll be pretty bad, but there is an argument that what we're seeing is a spike, and that spike will be diminished as things reopen and may not look as bad as it does right now.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dessa. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you for addressing that. Thank you all panelists for your insights shared. Appreciate your time. And yes, Corey Joe was correct. A lot of these questions are specific to unemployment. So Mark, coming to you, I know there's one question specific to Governor Evers has extended the stay-at-home mandate. Mm-hmm. So now with that, will these benefit dates be extended for those who qualify?
No, they will not be extended, although they very well may be for other reasons. So some of this, the federal stuff, the supercharged unemployment, that's a federal program. It's not necessarily in operation with the stay at home. I can envision a circumstance as we get into June and July where some of these things would be extended, but as of right now, the answer is no.
Thank you. Another question we have is, if you didn't file 2018 or 2019 taxes, but were required to, will you still receive a stimulus check?
That's a good question. And you know what? I have the answer here somewhere. So let's move on to something else. And if I can locate it, I will get that to you. Okay,
we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Another question here was an individual that is participating, works for the department, so the division of DVR in Milwaukee, and works with individuals with disabilities and helping to find them employment. So most of the consumers are from impoverished communities without resources and, you know, lack of employment and education. So how do these individuals fit into this kind of equation and this new way of doing things?
From an unemployment perspective or in general?
I think that can be for anyone in general. Mac,
okay.
If that's something you want to address, Denise or Mark.
Yeah.
So could you just reframe that, Dessa?
Absolutely. So one of the participants works with the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation in Milwaukee and works with individuals with disabilities and trying to secure them employment. So knowing that a lot of these folks, you know, have lack of resources and education and awareness, how are they fitting into this new way of doing things? How do you envision that? Like what resources would be available to them?
Mac, when you answer that, please answer it, but the person did follow up and say she also wanted Denise to answer that question. So Denise, you can go into the chat and look at it. Go ahead, Mac.
Yeah, I think what I'll speak to is what we've seen with within the labor market, you know, during the situation or prior as well. I think we have seen a progressive stance from organizations within the labor market in terms of how they look at diversity within their workforce across all populations. So I think as we look at that holistically, that we have seen organizations continue to improve how they look at diversity across the board, inclusive of all populations of the potential workforce and of the population. So I suspect that we'll see that continue. But that's what I would want to highlight on that.
Corey, Joe, forgive me. I just want to make sure I understand the question. So can you give it to me the third grade level? I just want to make sure I understand. I'm the slow one on the team.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to it. It was Melissa, right? That was the one that you were reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she says she works for the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation in Milwaukee. She says, we work with persons with severe disabilities to assist them to find employment. Most of the consumers are from impoverished communities without many resources, lack of employment, education, etc. How do these people fit into this new way of doing things?
That's a great question. And, you know, it's important because I think when we first hear the terminology diversity and inclusion, we often think of race, gender, sexual orientation, or age, and it is completely expanding. So to Melissa, I want to encourage her in terms of her question to turn that question into advocacy and continue to hold organizations such as Manpower Group that are providing solutions in terms of bridging gaps within the workforce, to add that as part of their areas of focus as it relates to diversity, because diversity is simply one thing, and that is difference. And if there's any group or entity that is experiencing a lack of resources based on their differences, it's people like you, Melissa, that will help raise the awareness. So I want to encourage you to change that question into a statement and contact people like Mac and Dessa and MMAC and help change that narrative and say, we need help just as much as these other diversity groups. And specifically, this is the help that we need.
And I'll just tag on to that with a demographic answer. In 2007, 2008, I was out there talking about the changing numbers of workers and how with the baby boom leaving the workforce, things were going to be very, very different in terms of who was able and available to work. So when Max said earlier, we've just kind of sped up some of the change. I think there's just going to be a lot of change, and business owners are going to be thinking about different ways of doing things. And I think that's going to present opportunities for lots of folks. I do have, Dessa, an answer to the earlier question. And I'm going to send to Corey right now the website. You can share it if you like, but the IRS has a website on who's eligible and who's eligible automatically and who's eligible with a little bit of work. To be eligible automatically for the stimulus payment, number one, valid social security number. Number two, not a dependent on someone else's tax. And number three, adjusted gross income under the limits we were talking about before, 75,000, and then graduated up. You automatically get the payment if you filed a federal tax return in 18 or 19, you received Social Security, retirement, disability, or survivor benefits, or you received railroad retirement benefits. That's automatic, you'll see a payment. If you're a non-filer, there's some things you have to do in order to qualify, but you're not necessarily disqualified. So Corey can share that link somehow, and that'll give further guidance on that question.
I'm going to go in and pull that. We do have a question in the chat from Jane. Her question is specific to her situation, but she says in the question, she feels like she's missing compensation that she should have gotten from her unemployment because her department was completely shut down. But she's feeling like she missed a week. What can she do if she feels like what she was supposed to receive is a little off? Is there any recourse for people like this?
So once again, I'll give you three answers for the price of one. Number one, I do not represent or work for the Department of Workforce Development Unemployment, so don't send a mail to me. There's certainly some, some friction there in terms of how things go. If someone didn't get great service, had to wait too long, was decided wrongfully, that happens, I believe you. The better answer might be that what she's referring to is the waiting week. There was until yesterday, going back to 2011, a week of waiting before you qualify for benefits. And so that was waived yesterday, but that may be what she's referring to. Or the other possibility might be that there was some kind of challenge from the employer in terms of how much she earned that week. Again, if she earned over $500 or if she worked more than 32 hours, she would not have qualified for that week.
Okay. Thank you for this disclaimer. I love lawyers because they always have a good disclaimer. Don't be calling the IRS telling them your lawyer Mark told you. Do that, y'all. I'm just saying. Tessa, do you see other questions?
Yeah, so we have a question for those of you that are caregivers out there. So the question is, my son's daycare closed due to an employee testing positive for COVID. The unemployment website doesn't show that being an eligible option, but does state that it won't have the CARE Act updates until April 21st. And so there will be a need to wait to apply. So the question is this accurate? And does it sound like this individual is eligible?
Yeah, so they're eligible in two respects. They're eligible first because they are not able to work through no fault of their own, right? But the better answer is that they're also eligible for FFCRA, which is the law that went into effect April 1st. And that is payment of their compensation up to $200 a day, 2/3 of their wages up to $200 a day for 10 to 12 weeks because of the fact that they don't have childcare available to them. That's not unemployment, that's FFCRA.
That's helpful. Any comments, Mark? There's a more of a comment on this individual saying any advice for those that are getting direct deposits specific to the stimulus, but in an incorrect account. So this individual is saying his stimulus was deposited into an account that he doesn't have anymore. So what is the recommendation in terms of getting that worked out? Because the IRS can't be contacted at this time.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know the answer, but I do think that the guidance that I just shared with Corey may have the answer in there.
You know what? I see a question in the Q&A side. Mac or Denise, this might be good ones for you. Desta, probably you might be able to answer this too. What are your thoughts on career changes during this pandemic, or for individuals who are graduating from college, all those seniors out there, tough year to be a senior, that are hoping to join the career field? Do you have any advice for them?
Well, I'll take because I just recently, obviously 3 years ago, I changed my career in terms of working for a consumer packaged goods company and then starting my own consulting business. And especially during COVID, this is important to really take some time that you've gained from, not having to be out and about so much. Really take the time to understand what it is that you would do if money were no object, and how you can be a solution or be a provider in a way to where people really need that right now. And be very aware of your why. Don't feel like you have to take certain things just because of money. And one more thing too, Corey, that I wanted to make sure, because I know I have to jump off here in 4 minutes. A lot of people right now are so consumed and focused on getting the money. I want to make sure that I share with you, take some time to identify and list what it is exactly that you need from that money. Because I know that a lot of banks are saying you are eligible up to $25,000 or $10,000 or $5,000. And we're so consumed with getting the money that we haven't taken a step back and really understood how we can take that money and make it work for us in the long run. Because even though it's forgivable, there will be a portion that you will have to pay back. And I'm not Mark, so I don't want to pretend to know exactly what that is, but be very mindful of getting money, a large amount of money at one time. What are you going to do to really make that money work for you and help you grow your business, or help you be in a position where you can continue to grow? So I just wanted to make sure that I share that as well.
Absolutely. Denise, you know what? I'm glad that you mentioned, some people are in the chat asking me about your workshop. So I think I'm going to let you go ahead and hop off. We only have a few more questions to get through, but thank you so much. You were great. I hope you have a great webinar.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Great to see everybody again. Take care. Redefine your control. Redefine it. Don't lose it.
Okay, Mark, I have a question for you in the Q&A section. Heidi says, I have 3 children ages 21 and 19. It looks like she might have twins, 21, 21, and 19, who I claim as dependents on my taxes. Will they get stimulus money?
You will get some stimulus money for them, but based on their age, maybe not as much as you would otherwise, or maybe not as much as they would get if they were not dependents.
Okay, so she would get the money for them as
right.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if they she qualifies for the 500 given their age, but they would not get their own checks.
Okay. Dessa, you seeing anything else?
There's just one that I think might be applicable too. So there's a question around, is there anything to protect salaried employees from reductions in pay? So for example, a lot of people might be seeing 20% until further notice of layoffs. So, and kind of the second part of that question is, can employers change their 401k safe harbor match to be made at a later date?
Yeah, so no and yes, employers can change things related to 401k. That there's a lot of flexibility for employers there. In terms of salaried employees, we're really talking about exempt, non-exempt issues, which are a whole nother kettle of fish. But fundamentally, think of it this way. If folks are working 32 hours a week, if folks are earning over $500 an hour, they don't qualify for unemployment. If they're earning less than that, working less than that, they might qualify for unemployment that would supplement the reduction in their earnings, or supplement their earnings as they've been reduced, is a better way to say it.
Can an employer force you to use your vacation time?
Yes and no. The short answer is yes. There are a few exceptions to that. For example, state FMLA is an exception to that. And the emergency FMLA, I think, is an exception to that as well. But fundamentally, employers are trying to figure out their own cash flow. And sometimes it's a little bit of a dance. They don't want everyone coming back to work still having a bunch of vacation time that they're now going to use in August, September. And on the other hand, they may not have the cash flow to fund it right now. So it's like It's about how much work you have. It's about how much vacation time you have. It's about how much cash they have in the bank. At the core, the simple answer is it's about what your handbook says, what your vacation policy says.
Okay, we do have a couple of other questions, but I think a lot of them are going to be able to be answered with the resources that you sent me. So I showed some of those websites during this webinar, but I also have the links that I'll send out after the call is over with this recording.
Terrific.
So that'll be helpful for folks. Dessa, do you see anything else you think we need to cover?
I agree with you. I think most should be covered in the resources at the time. We're at the top of the hour.
Okay, that's perfect. So I'm gonna do one last screen share here. And as I'm doing that, I wanna thank our panelists. Thank you so much for all of this information. I mean, I kind of knew that this was gonna be one of those topics where it's like, it's so much information, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but I think it's better for us to have resources to go to and be overwhelmed by information than be like freaking out because we don't know what our options and the choices are for us. So thank you, Mac and Mark and Denise, for all of the information that you shared. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
I'm gonna send you a
Thanks for having
retainer, Mark. Dessa, thank you for helping me with the Q&A. I'm sharing my screen. So Fuel is doing webinar, MMAC is doing webinars every single day. So if you want updates on what's going on with COVID-19, health projections, what's happening in business, go to mmAC.org. Every single day they have something for folks. A lot of shorter 20, 30-minute webinars that won't overwhelm you. Fuel is doing webinars every Tuesday and every Thursday from 2 to 3. So Tuesday we're gonna do a part 2 of our mental and holistic health. We were overwhelmed. We had too many people for the room. So we're gonna do a part 2 so we can answer folks' questions and give people a little bit of advice about how to be Zen in this really unusual time that we're all living in. Thank you for everyone who listened in, logged in for the webinar. Thanks again to the panelists, and I will see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.